Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Drew Allen Show. This is Drew Allen, your millennial minister of truth. We're back at it today. Just quick disclaimer. Look, we're going to get into the Mamdani stuff, the races around the country. I want to give you some perspective, why you should be scared and also why you shouldn't, as it's important. It was a little frightful, but look, just quick disclaimer. I've been sick for like a week. This isn't a sob story. We'll move on past this minute, but this is going to be a little bit shorter, I think, today. I took some Robitussin. I've had a cough for like a week. Both my kids are sick, so it's been a little rough. But I'm excited to be here. I need to be here. I need to weigh in on last night because there's, the panicins and there's, whatever. There's an assortment of people out there that just instinctually can't analyze what's going on and offer perspective. It's knee-jerk reaction. So I want to be relatively comprehensive here, and I might ask for your help. You can comment, of course, if I need some info. But I want to start with New York City. New York City is no longer an American city. You understand that? The election of Mamdani signifies that it's no longer an American city. And I'm sure the left could take this out of context, or they could come up with some explanation that defies reality and gaslight about what I mean by that. But, I've got some clips to play of Mamdani. A couple things. Mamdani showed his true colors in his acceptance speech or his victory speech. Gone was the genteel man, the young guy who was so kind and, the fraud anyway. He might be the best actor the Democrats have ever found to run for political office. He's even better than Obama in some ways, but I don't think he can maintain it because he shed that kind of boy next door, happy-go-lucky, I'm such a nice guy. He shed that immediately after he won, and he did show who he was, and it's scary. Mamdani's a scary guy, and I'm sorry for you in New York City. A couple questions out there. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican. I've got the numbers. I'll try and bring up in just a second to look at them. They're updated since I looked at them last night. So, there's an argument you could make. Hey, if Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, had bowed out of the race, we could have gotten Andrew Cuomo in there instead of Mamdani. I've got a little bit different opinion as it relates to that. And I'm be honest, I love Trump. I'm not certain that the endorsement of Andrew Cuomo by kind of last minute, but of Cuomo and of by Trump and by even what's his name? Guy that owns X. This is what happens to your brain when you've been sick for a week. But there were a number of people, Elon Musk is who I'm talking about, obviously, but a number of people came out and they just really felt like, Republicans needed to support Cuomo because Mamdani was that bad. And, Cuomo, of course, lost the Democrat nomination. It went to Mamdani. But, New York City's a Democrat-run city now. And the Republican Party in New York, we have to be honest, is very, very weak. I mean, they're pathetic. The GOP in New York City is basically non-existent. I don't know much about Sliwa. I don't live in New York City. I didn't pay attention to Sliwa's campaign. I don't know that much about Sliwa, and I didn't care. I live in California, another dumpster fire, and I'll get the Prop 50 in a little while. But I knew a Democrat was going to win in New York City. I mean, that's one of the takeaways that you all need to have here is that most of these results, they shouldn't really surprise you. The Democrats want to act like, they are ascendant. I've heard Gavin Newsom say that Democrats are now they're not as a party. Democrats running radicals in Democrat cities and winning those races with their radical candidates, it's not an indication that the country is suddenly abandoning common sense and rationality. I'm wearing this hat, Trump Vance 24, for a reason, because a year ago, Trump won the election. Trump is still president. Now, one caveat, and Trump understands this, he put out a post on Truth Social that was very long, but the gist of it was that Republicans are being, of course, sabotaged from implementing any sort of agenda by the Democrats and the Senate in particular who are using this filibuster. And he's saying, get rid of the filibuster and let's pass our agenda. And we do need to do that because without results, you're not going to see kind of generational change stick. I mean, think about it. Trump ran on all these things, and look, Trump has done a great job. He's done what he can, but we do have a legislative branch. All the Democrats out there that are running on these No Kings protests and everything else. I mean, Trump can't even pass most of his agenda because, of course, you do have three branches of government, and he's been incapable of doing it. Republicans haven't been able to do anything. And that's the reality. If we don't see results from this Trump administration, it's almost for nothing. Almost for nothing. So New York City, Mamdani won. I want to come back to what I said earlier. New York City is no longer an American city. It's a city run by unassimilated immigrants. The power is in the hands of unassimilated immigrants for the most part. New York City has the largest Muslim population in America. That's not good news. Red State Annie. I do like to get into the comments. I'm going to do the Trump weave and get into these because I appreciate your participation. And I want to respond to these things, especially when they're thoughtful responses. Some people out there are just haters and it's not worth my time. But Red State Annie, I respect you. Thank you for this. She says, what socialist sweep? A couple Dems won because Trump is so bad, just like Trump won because Biden and Harris were so bad. And then Red State Annie has to add, glad no one watches your show. Unfortunately for you, Annie, people do watch this show. Educate yourself more deeply. Red State Annie is now attacking me. So it was a socialist sweep in the elections, Annie. That is a matter of fact. Virginia is now blue again. New York City, of course, was an avowed socialist. Mamdani said he's a proud Democrat socialist. That's a socialist sweep. He won in New York City as the Democrat. Socialism reigned supreme. So throughout this country, you had radical Democrats who won. Yes, Annie, they won in places that were Democrat, strongholds like New Jersey, but that is a socialist sweep. And Trump is not so bad. Fake Red State. I don't know what Red State Annie. I mean, whatever. Trump is so bad. I'm not sure how Trump is so bad. That's not what happened at all. The Democrat Party, Annie, I'm going to educate you because you have exposed how ignorant you are. The Democrat Party platform is one of hatred. And this is what you can actually take away from these results, Red State Annie. All of these different people from Mamdani to Prop 50 in California, in Virginia, all these races, those are the main ones we're focused on. Minneapolis, the mayor race happened, but that was two Democrats running against each other. One was running, as a Somalian immigrant and a Muslim. The other one was the incumbent Democrat. But all of these people ran against Trump. And so what we learned from this is that hatred of Trump is all the left knows. After nearly a decade of indoctrination and talking points from the media, which ultimately got Charlie Kirk killed and caused the environment in which there could be 2 assassination attempts against Trump. All of this climate is of hatred. That is what fuels the Democrat Party, and it does work for the base. So this hatred you're seeing is what the left has doubled down on. I mean, think about this. You're running in a state race on Trump. What does Trump have to do with the state? If you're looking at your state, and this is another thing, the left does not believe in our republic as it was founded. They don't believe in federalism, which means states' rights. So they look at this as, okay, we're just, as if Trump is going to change everything in your state. They don't understand the complexities or the importance of state governance. So New York City is absolutely a dumpster fire already in the present. And it's that way because of Democrat reign. And Mamdani's running against Trump. Trump's not the reason that New York City has problems. Republicans don't run the state. You just had 4 years of Democrat leadership with air quotes. You had the Otto Penn administration of Joe Biden. These places are dumpster fires because of Democrat policies. And yet the Democrat is trained to simply, like a Pavlovian response to Trump, we hate him. So they can get people out to vote if they just say, do this in order to get Trump. It's not rational, But this is your Democrat Party today, a radical party where the mainstream is now socialism. So the left is not going back. They didn't learn anything from the most recent election. And they are deciding to embrace the most radical element of their party, and that is your Democrat Party today. And so again, nationally, this doesn't mean anything to some extent. But it does mean that the party and the base have been captured by and fueled by hate. Hate fueled the Democrat voter to participate in these elections and support these candidates. Hope that helps you, Annie. Hope I educated you. I want to play some clips from Mamdani in just a second. What if the next big crash is already in motion and almost no one sees it coming? Every major economic collapse since 1929 was preceded by the same 7 warning signals, and right now all 7 are flashing red at the same time. These aren't headlines. They're deep market indicators that Wall Street prefers you never hear about. That's why our friends at American Alternative Assets created the Bellwether Signal, a free report that reveals what these signals mean and how smart Americans are protecting their savings with gold and silver before it's too late. You can download your free copy right now at cloutgold.com, or you can call them at 855-803-GOLD. Cloutgold.com, or call them at 855-803-GOLD. So I want to play some of Mamdani first, and then I want to get into some of the stats that came out of this, which demographic group supported Mamdani, so you can understand what's happening. So listen to this clip. Actually, let's see here. Hold on. This one.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
What do you not hear him talk about? How about Americans? I would personally prefer, as an American, for my city, my state, my country to be run by proud Americans, not immigrants. It's stunning listening to these people, and it's a hostile takeover. And Mamdani, of course, is Muslim. And I'll be clear with you, and some of you will say, Drew, you can't say that because you haven't studied. I personally would never vote for a Muslim in this country. And I saw somebody get upset with me for saying that, What does person's religion have to do with it, Are you going to vote based on their height or weight or whatever? No, those are different things. It's about ideology. And, we celebrate, and this is false, right? But we celebrate in this country this idea of separation of church and state. There is no such thing in our founding documents, but there is something correct about this, because Islam does not differentiate. They do not make any separation between church and state, and it's a religion that really seeks to enshrine religious power at the top. We know that. If you don't know anything about the some of the more radical elements, but at the end of the day, they all want a caliphate. And, Christians, unbelievers, people who don't believe, you're killed in a lot of Muslim run countries. And, you can't really practice your faith in a completely authentic way as a Muslim and live in America. So you can be a Muslim in the United States of America, but you have to be willing to actually sacrifice some of the religious components that are part of your religious zealotry and ideology. Other religions aren't like that. They do allow for differences. Christianity allows for that. We're called to go forth and make disciples of all nations. Yes, that's a call. It's an activist calling for conversion. But but it's a very, very different attitude towards non-believers and others. Islam really looks at, in Christianity, even though we believe that you're saved through Jesus Christ and that you must be a believer to enter heaven, um, we believe, just like in our founding documents, that, we are all God's children, that we're all equal. We are all sinners in God's eyes. So I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No man is perfect. So it allows for grace and so on and so forth. Islam is a very, very different religion. And I want to play something here because Mamdani, I want you to imagine, someone on the right talking about Christianity this way. They would call you a Christian nationalist. They would call you fascist. They would shoot you in the neck like they did Charlie Kirk. But listen to what he says here. He's gonna lie and he's gonna pander to the Jews and try and convince them that there's nothing to worry about. And then listen to what he says afterward.
And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election.
Pretty stunning, And this is what he does. He is a communist. He can call himself a socialist all day, but he's a communist, a Marxist. And it's dividing everyone into oppressors and oppressed. So he's oppressed. The guy who grew up with millionaire parents who were famous, he came here, he went to a elementary school up until high school, I think it was, that cost $60,000 a year. And then, of course, he went to a private, college. This guy doesn't know suffering. He doesn't know oppression. But there he is spewing this type of demagoguery. And he calls for Muslims to, be in offices of power, to run for politics. Why does that matter? Again, and Christians should absolutely run for power and office and be in office. But the point is, the reaction from the left, if you say that as someone on the right, is, to be condemned. But here he is saying, we're no, it's amazing because no Muslim person in America has faced the same level of persecution or hatred as a conservative or MAGA in this country. You notice how it's open season? No one ever says, we're done with the MAGAphobia. No, they promote MAGAphobia actively. You're fascists and racists and bigots and everything else. It's open season on you. But don't say a word about Islam. Don't even criticize Islam or you are Islamophobic. And it's just an amazing thing. So he is the first Muslim mayor of New York City. God help your souls in New York City there. So already we've learned from him, and he's got a tone of anger, but immigrants are going to run things, and he's celebrating immigrants. This is the point. There's no assimilation. These people are importing their radical ideas from elsewhere, and they're not adopting the U.S. American identity that is born from our founding. It's antithetical to what we believe. And so we are being invaded by people like Mamdani. We're taking people in here that hate this country. It's just unbelievable because on the one hand, you've got the Democrat Party that already preaches hatred of America. And then you've got them importing another group of immigrants who are also either taught to hate America or they come here already hating America. And here's the thing, too, when I say I would never vote for a Muslim for political office. Have you noticed that all of the Muslims, at least that I can think of, in the public sphere that are politicians, they're all Democrats? Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Zohran Mamdani, even Barack Obama. And what do all of these people have in common? These Muslims that are here in this country that are immigrants, most of them, and the Democrats who are born here, they all hate this country. That is their shared worldview. And so obviously the Muslims who are coming here gravitate towards the Democrat Party. So it tells you that they have a shared ideology with them, and it is contempt and hatred for this country and our founding. And both of them, both the Muslim, and look, obviously there are exceptions to this. Obviously there are peaceful Muslims in this country. Obviously Muslims are good people. Many Muslims are good people, just like anything else or anyone else. But you have to look at things realistically as a whole as well, and you have to acknowledge reality. And the reality is both the Muslims throughout the world, if you're looking objectively, and the Democrat Party, these are authoritarian-minded individuals. One, it may be driven by religion. The left, which is godless, they have a religion of their own, and that is power. That is power. So that's Mamdani for you. I want to pull up a couple things from these results. So here's the results as of a few minutes ago. So Mamdani got 50.4% of the vote. Andrew Cuomo got 41.6%. So 954, 1 million. So I mean, it's close. If Curtis Sliwa had dropped out of the race, maybe he'd won. But this is a problem with me for principle. Like, and I get it. Like somebody like Donald Trump, he built New York. He lived in New York. He loves New York. And they don't want to see that. They don't want to see harm, the harm that they know is going to come to it at the hands of Mamdani. They didn't want to see that take place. And so they threw their weight behind Andrew Cuomo, hoping for the lesser of two evils. And I just think it's a mistake because Cuomo, if you go back just a few years ago, he's the guy who got old people killed in nursing homes over COVID. Murdered them basically with his policies. And of course, he's got a history with abuse and things like that. And but I don't think that endorsing Cuomo was the right move. It sends the wrong signal. You have a situation in New York now where I think you should be building a robust GOP that can actually fight long term to capture some minds of people, and that's not what's happening. Instead, it's okay, we'll endorse a Democrat who's running as an independent just because Mamdani's so bad, but the Democrats chose Mamdani. So I'm not a fan of that, if you will. So here's CNN Van Jones' take on the Mamdani stuff. So one thing, I don't have the clip to play, but I heard a clip of Van Jones, and Van Jones, he took this as black people and minorities who supported Trump are coming back home to the Democrat plantation is what he means, really, I suppose. And that's decidedly not true. New York didn't vote for Trump in the first place. Virginia's a weird situation, and I asked a buddy of mine, I said, I don't understand Virginia. It went red not long ago, and now it went all the way back to blue. Like, what's going on with that? Can you explain that to me? And he said, well, half the people that live in Virginia, they work for the federal government. So he thinks there's some kind of correlation between, being kind of a lefty anyway and working for the government, but also, the shutdown may have had an effect on it. But what New York City is to us today is our London. You can look at it that way. That's basically what we have now. New York City is the U.S. version of London. And remember, London also has a Muslim mayor. And so you can expect the same types of things to happen in New York City that have played out in London. And it's very, very sad because many people obviously criticized and saw what was happening in London. Well, now it's happening here in New York City. All right, let me play this clip of Van Jones. Listen to this.
I think he missed an opportunity. I think the Mamdani that we saw on the campaign trail, who was a lot more calm, who was a lot warmer, who was a lot more embracing, was not present in that speech. And I think that Mamdani is the one you need to hear from tonight. There are a lot of people trying to figure out, can I get on this train with him or not? Is he going to include me? Is he going to be more of a class warrior even in office? I think he missed a chance tonight to open up and bring more people into the tent. I think
I mean, Van Jones is ideological. Van Jones is a communist. That's why he got ousted by the first Obama administration. He didn't last long as the whatever czar he was in the administration because he was a communist. And back then, being a communist was worthy of being expunged from either political party. Today, think about it. Not long after that, not many years later, we are actually electing communists to positions of power. We, not me or you, most of you, but the Democrats. So, this is true. I saw that, Scott Jennings on CNN fired back at the CNN panel. Listen to what Scott Jennings had to say.
I wouldn't overread it. Virginia, in particular, has never been a great bellwether. I don't think a lot of folks had a lot of confidence in the Virginia campaign that was run on the Republican side. And New Jersey is New Jersey. So I would hesitate to overread it. I don't think the concerns you raised are illegitimate political strategy concerns. I think I just want to offer condolences to Chuck Schumer. Honestly, what I'm reading here in New York City is that AOC is going to be the next senator from New York after she gets done whooping his rear end in the 2028 Democratic primary. And for his Senate races in 2026, I see the energy in the Democratic Party tonight behind a socialist, and I see the energy in Virginia, Democrats looking the other way on a violent candidate for attorney general who says he wants to murder Republicans and their children. If you think you're getting rid of Graham Plattner in Maine now, think again. This is a terrible night for national Democratic image, given what is happening inside their party. Mamdani is an avowed socialist. It's not what people say that he is. It's what he says that he is. He's now the leader of their party. That's their energy. And Chuck Schumer's
the leader of the Democratic Party.
Let's swear. What? There is no. Who is the leader? Can someone tell me?
He's a life raft.
Yeah, so the CNN panels, they're trying to pretend some sort of moderation still, but they know it. Mamdani is now the face of the Democrat Party. And you're seeing more and more of this. They've been captured by socialism. And from now on, I will not call it the Democrat Party. I will call it the Democrat Socialist Party. That's what the party's become. Listen to Mamdani here.
After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this.
Well, I mean, that's not surprising. Democrats never apologize for anything. I gave a speech at the Republican women's group in Solano County up here, and not far from Napa Valley where I live. A couple days ago, on Monday, yeah. And there were some young mothers in the audience, or mothers who had children in different high schools and things around California, and they were they were scared to death for their kids in school. One of them was trying to open up a Turning Point USA chapter at their high school, and you need 3 people to do it, and they had 2, and they couldn't find a third person. And I said, well, is it because there isn't a third person that supports, conservatism, or is it because they're afraid? And she said, undoubtedly, they're afraid. They're afraid. But, look, in these Democrat states, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They are a socialist party now. Is that going to play with the American population at large? I don't think so. It's not. So it's in the net, it's not a good thing for the Democrat Party. I mean, if you think it's a good thing for the Democrat Party to now run outspoken advocates of the most morally reprehensible and they've proven themselves to be dangerous and deadly throughout history. Socialism has failed everywhere it's been tried. Communism is responsible for, tens of millions of murders of citizens around the world, from China to the Soviet Union. And this is what the Democrat Party, I mean, these people are winning. Mamdani just won the mayoral election in New York City, America's biggest city. So, yeah, where you have Democrat, majorities, where you have these immigrant populations that come from these backgrounds, where you have populations of people that are, unfortunately and sadly, have opportunity taken away from them because of Democrat policies, who are, welfare recipients. And that's what you had in New York City. I don't look at this. Pardon my voice here. I know I told you I've been sick for a week. I'm working through it. I'm sorry, folks. Look at these demographic results. So mostly white residents voted for Cuomo, a Democrat. So plus 14 for Cuomo. Asians, it was narrow, but they're Democrat. They vote Democrat. Mamdani was plus 4. Black residents, 61% voted for Mamdani. That's plus 26. Hispanic residents, Mamdani plus 20. And where Trump won in 2024, Cuomo won. Where Harris won, Mamdani. So think about this. I mean, Harris was the Democrat nominee for president. She's a radical lunatic. Mamdani's a radical lunatic. And this is the Democrat Party today. But you basically got, this is what happens in a socialist takeover country anyway. And in New York City, you're seeing the evidence of that. So what do you have in New York City? Because of the policies. You don't have a robust middle class that can afford to live there anymore. So you have class warfare. Blacks overwhelmingly supported Mamdani. Why do blacks suffer in New York City? Because of Republicans? Of course not. It's because of Democrat welfare and the Democrat Party policies. And yet black people are going and voting for Mamdani. And it's the plantation mentality, unfortunately. And this is the danger of welfare. And welfare, the problem with welfare is it's not designed to help. It's designed to enslave. It disincentivizes the very steps, the very behaviors that are necessary to improve your circumstances. It disincentivizes marriage. It replaces a husband with a marriage to the government. Even with the poverty line that qualifies you for SNAP, food stamps and other welfare benefits. If you make a penny above the poverty line, X number, 20,000, whatever it is, you're going to lose those benefits. So you're not incentivized to go out and work harder and improve your circumstances and make more money, because the pros don't outweigh the cons. And unfortunately, so many people don't understand this about the welfare system. It's not a net good on society. Yes, can we help people? Yeah, but in such a way that it is designed to fit that Chinese proverb, ironically. If you teach a man to fish, he'll fish for a lifetime. If you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. And so what the Democrat Party has done, and what these welfare policies are actually designed to do, is to give a man a fish. Never to teach him to fish. Never to let him become free of the system. To keep you dependent on the system. So you can come in like Mamdani as a Democrat, or what you're seeing right now with the government shutdown fight, and using that as leverage to control someone. That's what welfare is designed to do. So you got Hispanics overwhelmingly voting for Mamdani, minority groups overwhelmingly voting for Mamdani. Why is that? Why would such a thing happen? Well, Mamdani wants, New York City to be a city of immigrants, not a city of Americans. There's a big distinction to be made between that. And listen to him when he says, I am an immigrant. We shouldn't be a nation of immigrants. We should be a nation of Americans. And the people that have come over to New York, 1 million Muslims, for example, the largest population of Muslims in America, they are not assimilated into America. They aren't here because they love this country. And unfortunately, the Democrat Party doesn't love this country. So wherever you have the Democrat Party in control, you're going to have this perfect storm of hatred and animosity and danger to this republic, because they're bringing people in that don't like this country and they're not teaching them to love this country. And the welfare is incentivizing people to come here, not because they want to be American, but because they want to steal from the American taxpayer. And that's not sustainable for any society. It's not sustainable for the United States of America, and it's destructive. So we don't have any unification in this country. You know, what they envision, of course, is a nation without borders. You can call it the United States of America, but it doesn't have a national identity. They don't care about having a national language as long as you vote for Democrats. I mean, you just have to think through this practically and understand the danger that it presents. It's suicide. It's national suicide to bring people to a country that don't share a language, a culture, a religion. These things, you don't have a country anymore. You don't have a country anymore. Yeah. One more important announcement here, and then we'll kind of finish up here. Are you ready to move easily and independently? You've heard me talk about native path before, but if you're ready to move without pain or stiffness holding you back, if you want to look in the mirror and see a plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles, well, you should discover Native Path Collagen, made with only type 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. It's found in your cartilage, your bone, your skin, your hair, your nails, your gut. Types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits. And it's a single ingredient formula. Native Path Collagen is. It's got no fillers, no additives, or artificial sweeteners. It's third-party tested for heavy metals, which ensures purity and safety. And it's completely flavorless. You can add it to anything. I've told you, I've done it in coffee. I've done it in smoothies. I've done it in oatmeal. It's peptide formula that makes it more bioavailable so it doesn't clump. It's absorbed more easily. It mixes. And they offer amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. And they've got over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews. Visit nativepath.com/dailyclout and start your transformation today. That is getnativepath.com/dailyclout. So Billy Tolson thinks smart. He's not, of course. It's sad that I'm have to call him out and embarrass you in front of the audience. Do you know anything about NYC? It has been a city of immigrants for its entire existence. Billy, the entire United States of America, of course, began as a nation of immigrants. They had to come here from somewhere else. But they came here, by the way, in New York City, Italians, especially Irish, all kinds of people. I don't know if you know this, Billy, but there was no welfare. Billy says audience of 3, and yet Billy's here for some reason. It's fascinating. I love it. Thank you, Billy. No, this is a false claim made by ignorant people. The immigrants who came here at the turn of the century, for example, when we had massive immigration, there was no welfare state. So they came from other countries. Many of them, of course, came, into New York City, the famous Statue of Liberty, Staten Island, and they came with nothing. And they expected nothing except opportunity. And they came here because they wanted to be American. That was it. They came here motivated because they loved this country, because it meant something to them. That's a big difference than somebody who comes here across the border under Joe Biden, for example, Billy, and they don't learn the language. I mean, you realize that these quote unquote immigrants you're talking about in New York City, Billy, many of them don't speak English still. They've been here 10 years and don't speak English. Now, I lived in Italy. I worked in Italy for 2.5 years. And I'm a respectful person. Do you know what language, Billy, I spoke in Italy when I lived there? Now, obviously, I could have spoken English because a lot of Italians speak English, especially in Milan. But I ran a Marc Jacobs store. I opened and managed the first Marc Jacobs store in Milan, Italy. And I spoke Italian. How about that? You know what? I didn't fly an American flag outside of my apartment. And I didn't make demands on Italy. And furthermore, I didn't overstay my welcome. Now, I was there as a legal resident. I had paperwork. But I can't imagine going to Italy and saying, you know, I really like it here. I want your free everything. I want the Italian taxpayer to fund me, and I'm going to overstay my visa or whatever else. And I'm just going to stay here because I have a right to be in Italy. And you can go to hell if you try to deport me from Italy because you're a monster. So anyway, so that's not true. And no nation does what we do. I mean, if you just, forget about politics for a second. It's just stupid policy. If you're going to have a country that's amazing, that has an identity, the greatest country in the history of the world, and you're just going to say, okay, everyone in the world who's poor, we want you to come here so we can just pay for your stuff, and you don't need to learn our language. You don't even need to love the country. You don't need to understand our history. As a matter of fact, just come here. Especially people who hate this country, we want you to come here. And we're going to tell you that it's great to hate this country. But that's what the Democrat Party and Billy do. That's what they think. You know what? No immigrant has the right to come here. We are not the world's trash can, Billy. We have a right to choose who comes to this country. And the people that come to this country, this is a family. This is our house. They should be coming here to improve the country. That's our right as a nation. And the reason, by the way, this country is the greatest nation in the history of mankind, do you know why? It's because we brought the A team from around the world, the A team of immigrants. That's who came to this country and became American. They didn't stay immigrants. They became Americans. Now we're bringing the Z team from around the world to this country. And it's no surprise that New York City is a dumpster fire and a shadow of its former self. Because you're importing crap, you get crap. That's what happens. So I don't know if you, so Virginia, the other thing is too, you know, people like Billy who are avowed socialists, who support the Socialist Democrat Party of America now, you know, the AG candidate in Virginia, Jay Jones, he won pretty, you know, decisively. And this is a guy who fantasized about murdering his political opponents, their families, their children, and he won. So Democrats don't care, even if their candidate has fantasized about killing Republicans. That's totally kosher and fine for them. There is nothing a Democrat can do, you know, to dissuade a Democrat voter from voting for them. Because remember, Democrats don't answer to a transcendent power. They believe themselves to be God. This is why they really favor this abortion argument. Well, the you know, child in the womb, the unborn child, well, it's a baby if you want it to be a baby. That's what determines if it's a baby. So if you're at 10 weeks and you want the baby, it's a baby. If it's inconvenient for you and you want to murder it, well, then it's a clump of cells. So you play God. Morality is relative. Charlie Kirk's just a clump of cells. Kill him. Who cares? This is how they think. This is how they shift. This is why there's no continuity to their platform. That's why they can support transgenderism now. And that's why they can go from, well, you know, if you're 18 and over, if you want to cut off your wiener, that's fine. Now it's, no, we want little kids to be told that it's cool to cut off their wieners. We want to indoctrinate them to cut off their wieners and their breasts and have double mastectomies and pump them full of, you know, these hormones. Abortion, safe, legal, and rare. Nope. Now we want infanticide and we want the taxpayer to fund it. Anything that gives them power. Power is the altar of the left. And by the way, very important, there's no such thing as separation of church and state in the United States of America. And you heard it there with Mamdani. We need more Muslims running for office. More Muslims need to be represented in the state assembly and the governorship and everything else. Why does it matter if they're Muslim? Huh? Mamdani? It's a religion. So there is no separation of church and state. That comes from a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote in the early 1800s to the Danbury Baptists. They feared that the other congregations who were more popular, that controlled power, that they were going to discriminate against the Danbury Baptists. And Thomas Jefferson wrote them saying, no, we're not gonna like you have the right to practice freely. And the irony of it is that Thomas Jefferson wasn't trying to keep religion out of politics, but to keep politics out of religion. And so Christians out there really, really need to pay attention now, because ideology, wherever it comes from, a belief system, is going to influence policies around the country. And so Democrats have their own ideology, their own religion. Trans, they worship the trans flag. LGBTQ plus, abortion. And fundamentally, the Democrat Party platform is anti-Christian as well. I want to play something here. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's pathetic. She's out there trying to pander now to the left. I want you to listen to this clip from The View.
Here's something you all may not know about me. I think a lot of people on the left are learning that when I ran for Congress in 2020, I ran criticizing Republicans and Democrats equally, because I come from a working class family, ran a construction company for over 20 years, and I feel like the government has failed all of us. And it purely disgusts me. It really does. And I represent a district that is rural, manufacturing district, blue collar workers. And people have been crushed by decades of failure in Washington, D.C. And so I have no problem pointing fingers at everyone. And the worst thing that I just can't get over is we're not working right now. And I put that criticism directly on the Speaker of the House. And we should be at work. All the people sitting in this audience, they go to work every day. People at home watching this show, they go to work every day. Ladies, you go to.
So this is so weak. So what she's doing is, with a wink and a nod, trying to do damage to the Trump administration. And basically, she's trying to help Democrats at this point. Going out there and trying to suggest that, there's equal blame here. There's no, and obviously I say it all the time. I talk about the failures of the Republican Party. I don't worship at the altar of the Republican Party. They're a vehicle, and the only one we have to exact change. And unfortunately, that change is slow to come because Republicans, many of them are corrupt too. But to suggest somehow that there is some kind of similarity at this point where you have Mamdani winning the mayoral race in New York City as an avowed open socialist, which goes against everything this country was founded upon. On The View, with all of these things happening, Charlie Kirk assassinated recently, left-wing terrorism that is covered up by the ADL and ignored, the gaslighting that happens around this country. And she wants to go on there and kumbaya, you Democrats should love me too, because, I attack Republicans as well, and I really blame the Speaker that. I blame Republicans right now. She's a coward. That's what she is. Now, you can go on these shows and you can be polite. You can do what Charlie Kirk did and engage in debate. She didn't go in there and engage in any debate whatsoever. She went in there to try and be liked by the women on The View. And the women on The View are some of the most vile people on the left, on TV. We've seen it over and over and over again with their inflammatory language and everything else, the things they say. They also happen to be very stupid. And Marjorie Taylor Greene goes on The View. What's it an opportunity for her to sell herself? Not to make any points that matter in this country. You have an opportunity when you go in front of an audience like that to get some facts across, to present them with information like, whatever, the guy on here that, wanted to spar with me, Billy Tolson, whatever, I wish I could sit down with somebody like Billy and have a civil conversation. I would enjoy it. I really, we're Americans. I love this country at the end of the day. And, I do enjoy debating. But Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't use it that platform for that reason. Look at me. You know, I mean, it's pathetic. This is the losing mentality of Republicans in the past. Mitt Romney and sadly also John McCain. You know, because the left expects Republicans to play by the rules that the left imposes on us while they don't play by any rules at all. So you can't do that. You can't do that. But anyway, look, I'm losing my voice a little bit. But what you should take away from these election results, Prop 50 passed by like 60 something percent in California. Insane, but expected. None of this was surprising. But what you should take away from this is knowing who the enemy is at this point. Knowing what the Democrat Party is and what we're up against. We're up against a socialist party that is radical and it's not coming back. There is no moderation with the Democrat Party. They're a radical leftist party like this country has never seen before. And they're one of the two dominant political parties. That's the takeaway. So where Democrats can win and do win, radicals are going to win because that's your Democrat Party today. You're up against socialism, and you're up against Marxism, and you're up against communism, redistribution of wealth, division of oppressors and oppressed. This is all from the Soviet Union. This is all from Stalin and Lenin. That's what the Democrat Party is and represents today. So that doesn't say anything about the rest of the country. But, you know, the Republican Party has soul searching to do. You know, we've got to maintain who we are. And frankly, the way to save the country still is spiritual. There are 230 million some odd Christians in this country. And if we actually were Bible-based Christians who believed in the founding and understood history and didn't allow the left to dictate to us what we thought and how we behaved, they didn't allow secularism to creep into our churches and to replace Christianity with, you know, communism, we couldn't lose elections because the Christian couldn't support any Democrat in this country because their platform is decidedly, fundamentally at odds with Christianity, at war with Christianity, and at war with this country and our founding. So anyway, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. Even, you know who I love Jasmine Justice has a quick question to close out. Can the federal government appeal Prop 50? I mean, they're going to try to do that, Jasmine. I don't think they're going to get anywhere because theoretically, you know, look, the founding fathers understood that, you know, this country's survival depended upon moral men. So no constitution is going to prevent Napoleon Bonaparte, right, from, you know, violating it. And, you know, I mean, basically, if Republican states wanted to do what Gavin Newsom is doing, they could just because what you do with gerrymandering, typically, sometimes you can do it mid-cycle, but it's typically in alignment with a census, right? So you have to reapportion the members of the House because the numbers change. And so you can go in and gerrymander and change the maps and so on and so forth. But generally, even after gerrymandering, those maps typically reflect a general percentage that's accurate between Democrats and Republicans in the state. I want to explain what Prop 50 did. You know, Republicans are like, you know, maybe 25% typically of the voter in California right now. Maybe it's a little more, but let's say 25%. We already had just 17% representation, and now it's going to be like 7%. So you understand how that's different than what Texas did, which still actually maintains those percentages of Democrats and Republicans for the most part. So Republican states, red states, should just counter with what Newsom did. They should just do exactly the same thing. Call it Prop 50 in every single Republican state. Have the people vote to redraw the districts, and we will just eliminate all Democrat representation. How about that? So anyway, all right. Thank you, guys. God bless you all. God bless you, Billy Tolson. Until next time.